Do you bleed? I don't know if you guys remember that line, but that's the first words he asked for Batman.
That was Joss Whedon making fun of Snyder right there.
Right. Returning that, titular line.
Or the Hey everyone, welcome back to the Geek Branch podcast. I know you have watched this. Everyone has watched this at this point. You know what I'm talking about. No, I'm not talking about what Marvel's doing. We'll get to that. We're talking about the Snyder Cut. I got my boy Novelle right along with me. We are pumped. Well, let me speak for myself. First of all, I was not a huge fan of the original Justice League. It was a hodgepodge mess. You could tell that it was a Frankenstein of a film because Joss Whedon had to come in. A lot of people already know the story, but what basically happened after Zack Snyder had already filmed approximately about 4 hours of his movie, unfortunately, his daughter Autumn Snyder committed suicide. It was a very unfortunate thing, and so because of that, he did not feel the energy to direct the film any longer. And so due to that, Joss Whedon came in and took over, and he changed a lot of things, and you could tell that it was a movie that had two directions mixed into one, and it just didn't work. It had a lot of issues, so I was really excited to finally see what Zack Snyder had planned, and I think we both enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely enjoyable. Tim has already mentioned that everyone has already watched it. It's only been 2 days at this point?
Yeah.
But when we were trying to get it to launch on HBO Max, man, I tell you, was it a problem? The server was absolutely just being overran by people tuning into this thing. So by now, I think Tim does have it right. Most of the world has seen the Snyder Cut, and it was an experience.
Yeah, and some people complain about it being long, which understandable. It was definitely a long movie. For those of you that maybe haven't seen the film, it is 4 hours long, which, most of your average movie consumer is not used to sitting through that. They're not going to go watch the Lord of the Rings extended edition.
All three movies at once. Yes.
Well, no, just the first one. The first one's 3.5 hours long.
Nah, you got to do all three. That's 11
Well, I know,
plus.
Right. But if you do that, that's a whole day's, event.
It's worth it.
It is worth it, but most of your average moviegoer is not willing to do that. So it's interesting to see this come to life via streaming. It makes more sense via streaming because there's another implication when it comes to 4 hours that a lot of people don't think of. But with movie theaters, if we weren't in the situation that we were in now in the world, movie theaters would not be okay with 4 hours because they have to make enough show times to make money. And if it's 4 hours long, that's not cutting it, which is why Endgame was really close to not cutting it for the theaters. It was 3 hours long. So we got to see this long experience, and it got to fill in a lot of gaps and explained a lot of things that basically the Joss Whedon Justice League, or Justice League as they call it, went briefly over.
Yeah, so I think that in the age of streaming, one of the most valuable things we're going to be experiencing now is the potential for longer form movies. And there was several strengths to the Snyder Cut in its length. There were some detriments as well, mostly just because this definitely feels kind of like the Tolkien effect. When you add all the unused things together into one product, you can tell that it doesn't flow as naturally as it should. So there were some weak parts to its length, but for the overall experience, I would say that at 4 hours, it was something I felt was of quality. I really enjoyed it. I think that it was something that was worth the, putting your butt on a couch and watching a screen for 4 hours straight. If you can binge on a Netflix show, you can watch the Snyder Cut.
I would say that the pacing's at least better than what we got from Justice League.
Well, yeah, in the opposite vein.
In the opposite vein. Yeah, obviously.
I mean, nothing beats the breakneck pace of Star Wars, the last Star Wars movie. But
I gotta believe it. Yeah. Man, I'm telling you.
But the Josh Cut, or whatever you want
Justice
to call
League.
Justice League was definitely on that side of negative, where it was too fast to flow consistently.
He also clearly did not want certain elements that Snyder intended for the movie to be in his vision, which was Darkseid. That was a big thing. He did not want barely a mention of Darkseid in his movie.
Right.
Where you basically gave Steppenwolf the shaft because of that.
Yeah, but we got Steppenwolf, who honestly is more of a minor character here, even though he is the primary antagonist. We got Steppenwolf, Desaad, and Darkseid, who are two different characters.
And the I never remember her name. Just the lady that's always
Granny Goodness.
Yeah, she was in there briefly too, which was a nice nod as well. I liked that.
Yes. And she had no speaking roles, unfortunately.
Well, she's not a woman of many speaking anyways. She's not much of a talker anyhow. She's more of a woman of action, of destruction.
Yeah, it depends on where you're looking at her from. Most of the time, we don't see her too often as a character anyway, unless we're dealing with Scott Free and Big Barda.
They actually did a good job of showing her in the animated series, Justice League. She was normally with him.
Yeah.
So they give them kudos to that. But back to Steppenwolf, one of the big things that you can immediately notice is that one, the Justice League Steppenwolf looks very much generic. Like the helmet that's on him looks like a helmet. It doesn't look like an actual piece of the alien's body. He looks like some random soldier with special alien type armor, but not really an alien. You know what I mean? Whereas this really felt the Zack Snyder one felt more bestial. He felt like he was out of this world. He didn't feel like he came from Earth at all. And he was a much more menacing villain compared to what we got before. Even the voice sounded different. If you do a comparison between the two voices, you can hear the Justice League voice better, don't get me wrong, but it didn't have that, like, it didn't give justice to the actor, and it didn't give that gravitas that it deserved.
I think that some of the most important parts when referring to the changes, especially the visuals, is that this is the first break that we've had since basically Endgame, or Infinity War, where we've seen a major Marvel villain that has a unique or strong color palette. Marvel and DC have been notorious for gray toning most of their villains. So the colors are very dull, very flat. They decided to almost keep to that in that Steppenwolf doesn't actually have a solid color. He's not like solid red or solid blue,
but he's cool, chromatic purplish type of vibe going. I like it.
He has that metal reflection color palette that you get when you look at like chrome rims and you reflect a rainbow, like kind of that rainbowish color off of them. Definitely strolling strongly in the kind of violet purple tone, but it is definitively a color, which is so much better than the gray blobs that we've been getting out of Marvel and DC, especially in the early years.
Especially DC with Snyder.
Yeah. Looking back at Zod, whose armor was basically just gray.
Well, I mean, even Superman, obviously if you're watching the spoilers, but he gets the black and silver outfit,
right?
But it's still not like, it's not just like, dull looking.
Yeah, because if you look back at the older, I guess the Josh version of it,
you can just say the older one.
Yeah, if you look back at the older one, the strongest colors in that entire series remain with Superman at the very beginning.
He likes his red and blues.
Yeah. It's Superman at the very beginning. It's Flash, who of course is the only thing with a solid color. He's red. And then there's Wonder Woman's chest armor. Maintains a red tone, but everything else is very muted. Finally, in the Snyder Cut, not only do we get atmospheric color when we're on Themyscira, there's a lot of bright, vibrant green. The sky is a bright color. You get several different color palettes throughout the movie, but you also get characters with just stronger colors.
And also characters with stronger moments. Speaking of Themyscira, it got a way better fight scene against Steppenwolf, like the whole basically passing of the baton moment. That was not in the older version.
Yeah, and the Amazons put up a pretty substantial fight. I mean, they couldn't win by themselves, but they were really efficient when it comes to taking out something stronger than they were. Both as competent fighters as well as their eventual loss. they were on top of it. Like, if you had given them a fair shake, I think that they would have succeeded in getting their mother box away. So we are a little bit hopping around, but that is definitely something to look forward to if you haven't seen the movie yet, is the Amazon fight scene, including also the Atlantean fight scene, no matter how awkward underwater combat might be.
A lot of the fight scenes, really, in my opinion, all of his fight scenes were better. Besides maybe one, which was pretty much the same. But the other were, because they basically all met at Themyscira in the flashback sequence with Darkseid. I mean, that was night and day, because first of all, they had Steppenwolf in the Justice League version, and this time we get full on Darkseid, and you see like his destruction during his early days, and then him getting basically yeeted by Zeus and the God of War, Ares, and who else was it? Who shot him?
Diana.
Yeah.
Sorry, Artemis.
Artemis shot him.
I'm thinking of the Roman version of her name. Yeah, but Artemis. Artemis puts 2 arrows in his chest. Zeus hits him with lightning, and then Ares finishes it off with the axe to the shoulder.
Yeah, that was a much better battle than what we had originally seen.
Right, and it also maintains a more thematic through line. It's kind of reminiscent of Marvel's Avengers BC, where the Avengers existed in a different version long before our Avengers came into existence. The Justice League, or better yet, this alliance that goes against Darkseid, existed in a previous iteration. So when the gods were still on Earth, you had the Greek gods, you had the Atlanteans when they were still on land before they were cursed to go underneath the waters. You know, present day Atlanteans, besides the royals, can't go above land. They start suffocating if you bring them onto the surface. From space, rather than a Kryptonian, they had a Green Lantern, which was cool to see.
Although he got KO'd so fast.
He lost like most Green Lanterns do. He got too close. Like he goes in and gets within like reach range of Darkseid, and Darkseid just owns him.
He's too confident.
Yeah, he just got too close. But it was cool to see an alien like that, actually. I don't even know what species he was from the DC cosmos.
Yeah.
But he did actually look unique and pretty cool. He also had his lantern battery built into armor on his chest, which was really freaking awesome.
It was a really cool design.
Yeah, so I actually really liked him for his short bit in the movie. We continue on we also had the Human Alliance, which was made up of a strange mix of what looked to be like the Huns, the Chinese, barbarians, just humans from all over were a part of
the typical European soldiers you would see.
Yeah, it was a really cool mix for those. And there's one more part of the alliance. It's aliens, Atlanteans, Amazonians, humans, and there's one more faction. What's the other faction?
I don't think there was anything else. I think that was everything, right?
Aliens. Oh, gods. Yes, that's it.
No, you mentioned gods.
Yeah, so I think that's it. I think that's all of it.
Yeah, and of course you see the mother boxes being separated, which it was in both versions.
Right, and it translates to the next iteration of it, where we have Wonder Woman, who represents both the gods and the Atlanteans. We have Amazonians. We have Aquaman representing the Atlanteans. We have the metahumans, which is a new factor, which is Flash and Cyborg. We have the regular human represented by Batman, and then we have the alien represented by Superman. So it kind of carries that through line. And because of the length of the movie, the theme, which is Batman bringing together the representatives of the different factions of Earth in this form of unification, it gets repeated a few times, to the point where like me, who caught it at the very beginning, was like, all right, we understand Batman is the great unifier. But nevertheless, it was so lightly touched on in the original version that it is worthy of note that theme is much stronger in the Snyder cut.
Yeah, in fact, our friends were making jokes about how often it was mentioned by everybody.
Yeah, that Batman is bringing everyone together. Batman is the great unifier.
But at least we got rid of the weird Batman jokes where he was trying to like do the dad jokes. That really does not fit Batman.
The Marvel humor,
yes.
we can do without. Now, we did have his flat lines. He's being the straight man in the situation.
He had some good jokes.
What's your superpower? I'm rich.
Yeah. So all the good jokes that people liked were from Snyder. Okay. And all the jokes that were like, this does not fit this world, were all Joss Whedon. And it was like when Flash, has to explain about brunch to Bruce, which is really weird. Yeah. And then the whole him falling on Diana's boobs really awkwardly.
Yeah, no, not bothering with any of that. But
Oh,
we do
there's
get
one, there's one more. There's one more weird one that I totally forgot about, and it's an Aquaman one. It's where he sits on the
lasso.
lasso.
He sits on the lasso
Yeah.
and ends up saying something weird for him.
Yeah. That was more comedy bits that just it doesn't fit them. Okay, it was already an established universe. It just didn't work.
Right. It's more so just that like DC is more unrealistic than Marvel. The things that occur in DC are just much more fanciful than what occur in Marvel. But DC treats it much more serious no matter how ridiculous it gets.
Right.
If you look at the concept of Batman, which is a man in a bat outfit fighting crime for 20 years, no one jokes about that. Like,
except for like his villains sometimes.
Right. I mean, you'll get people that poke fun at him, but no one in the Batman universe jokes about what Batman is. Like even the regular cops who've known him for 20 years, like Jordan has a scene, Jim Gordon has a scene where he's like, yeah, he's been fighting criminals for 20 years and you think he's just gonna start kidnapping people?
Yeah, he's got a point.
Yeah, right. So it's people treat Batman seriously, no matter how ridiculous of a concept Batman is. Marvel does not. You know what I'm saying? When Marvel comes up with something over the top, people will joke about it in universe and just on the tangent.
When it comes to the primary heroes, anyways. I mean, if you go out to like Plastic Man, Booster Gold, the people you
then
don't
those
like,
guys are kind of internal jokes in and of themselves. But like, no one makes fun of Captain America. But like, when you get done with it, you have like the Captain America looking at his own behind scene that is America's ass. You know, like that type
doesn't
of
fit DC.
Yeah, DC
for the most part.
DC characters, no one would ever make that joke. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, there's a few that make some jokes similar, but it's still not in that vein. I don't know. It's signature Marvel, and it fell out of place in that world.
Right. I think just the most important thing to know about DC as a universe, comics and should be
it has
translated to
humor.
films, is that it treats itself seriously, no matter how ridiculous the situation gets.
Right. It might have some humor, might have some lightheartedness, like The Flash. The Flash is typically lighthearted, stuff like that.
Right.
You know,
like he gets his own origin story. Well, he gets his full origin story in the Justice League movie, in the Snyder Cut.
Well, not how he got his powers,
Well,
but
with the exception of, getting hit by lightning in the lab.
Right.
Which actually, no, he can't be hit by lightning in the lab because he's not working in the crime lab as of the Snyder Cut. So I don't know how that Flash gets his powers, actually.
it is an interesting question because clearly he gained his powers.
Right. We'll get it in the movie, his own movie, I guess, if they ever decide to do that.
They are. It is full steam, and it's very interesting because we're gonna get Ben Affleck back as Batman alongside Michael Keaton Batman.
Yeah, I have high hopes for that, actually, just because of if they are keeping the continuity from the Snyder Cut. He is a very interesting interpretation of the Flash / Barry, and I really enjoyed it. I especially love his job application / slaving of Iris West, because one of my favorite things, this is one of those humor moments that only the Flash gets away with. He's saving Iris in slow motion, and a hot dog stand is also a part of the car collision that he's rescuing her from, and he steals a hot dog in the middle of the
because that is Flash.
Yeah, because they're keeping to the continuity of kind of being, once again, like DC should, treating things very seriously. Flash is perpetually hungry because he has a superhuman metabolism.
Yeah, they even take his powers a bit more seriously.
Yeah, like how he has to heal, for instance.
Right.
So I appreciate all of these small things in the Snyder Cut that build back to DC, because that was the thing that was getting on my last nerves. When we started with the Snyder Universe, it was too far removed from DC to begin with, but every time a new movie came out, like Batman v Superman was closer to DC than Superman. What was
Man of Steel?
Man of Steel was. Every DC movie, especially when you got the first Aquaman movie, was bringing things back towards the DC comic standard. And now we get the Snyder Cut, and we're there. And as long as they stay in this zone where it feels like DC and not like Marvel, I'm appreciating it.
I mean, I really, really hope that the execs over at Warner Brothers change their mind. But as far as everybody knows, there's no plans for any more Snyder stuff. Well, but they would be idiots at this point not
to capitalize on
Yes, because there's a lot of people that hated these Snyder movies that are like, where was this Snyder before? Why weren't you going in this direction before? Of course, he thinks he's God himself. So, he's got this ego about him.
Yeah.
And so he said he's had this plan all along, which he is a planner. Don't get me wrong. He's had a lot of movies planned. He was leading up to the DC's, like what we know as DC. He wanted to build up to that instead of it being straight out the gate. But that's not what people wanted. People wanted what we got out of this.
Well, people wanted the ensemble to be together because we had the Avengers for like 4 years at this point.
Right.
Like when we're talking about when the DCU was first ramping up, Marvel had already been in the game, in the wheelhouse for about 4 to 5 years.
And
Avengers
DC
had already
Batman,
been done.
And that's it.
Yeah. And Avengers had already been done. So everyone was like, all right, come on, catch up. We want the Justice League. And so they jumped to it, which was grossly incorrect. But regardless,
they can. But the thing is, you don't have to have all these characters having their individual movies.
Well, no, we got like I said, we got 3 origins
right
in this story. They're incomplete origins, but we got the origins for Flash, we got the origins for Cyborg, and we got the origins for Martian Manhunter.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying.
Though his was only like a hint.
So, examples where, they built the DC, like some of the animated stuff and different things. So Batman had his own animated series and Superman had his own animated series. And then they decided to make the Justice League.
Right.
The first few episodes of that Justice League is basically a movie.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's also the DC animated universe. So there's like 2 different animated universes. There's one where they started doing the New 52 comic line. So there's the first movie for that universe is the Justice League, which is basically copy and paste from the New 52 line. And it worked perfectly. You didn't have to have all these other people to already have all this other stuff. You know what I mean?
So here's the thing, right? Now, I think it's just a bad sense of perspective from DC and Warner Brothers.
Right.
Where their thought process was, we need to replicate Marvel. And we need to get the Avengers in DC, basically.
That feel of
right. And so the problem with that is that with our magical ability of hindsight being 2020,
right,
we know now that you could have actually established the Snyder Justice League DC universe in 3 movies.
Easily.
It could have easily have been just this. It could have been Superman is the first movie, Man of Steel.
It's actually not.
No. I know it's not. But what I'm saying is,
Green Lantern is.
You could. I know. But my point being is that you can get to the Snyder cut in 3 films.
Yeah.
So this is my thought process. You do Man of Steel. At the Man of Steel, hint at Batman.
Yep.
Right. That's 2. You do Batman v Superman, which brings in Wonder Woman, and that gives you your Trinity.
Or do it right.
Well,
do that movie right.
Regardless, my point being is that you could get to the full cast in literally 3 films and be at Avengers level. The Snyder Cut works if you only take 3 films out of the current DCEU.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You only need Man of Steel, Batman v Superman with some changes, and then the Snyder Cut itself, and you have the entire buildup.
Yeah, there's just a couple of changes that they would have to make to Batman v Superman to make that redeemable to people. First of all, get rid of that stupid Martha line. Second of all, tone down the Batman violence.
I mean, Batman's still murking people left and right.
I know, but yeah,
he's killed so many people at this point. That's my problem, right? It didn't feel like DC.
Well,
Batman
he's
was
the
killing...
Dark Knight. He's not Batman. He's Frank Miller's Dark Knight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, even then, it took a long time for Frank Miller's Dark Knight to kill someone.
I know, but I'm just saying that essentially he's already gotten to that point without us knowing that.
Right.
By the time we meet him, he's already at that point.
And the sheer lethality of characters in this in the Snyder Cut is remarkable.
But that's not surprising.
The only person who's actually non-lethal is Barry, and that's because Flash doesn't know how to fight. His entire combat strategy, as you witness during this movie, is build up kinetic energy by running really fast and then transmitting it through a push. That is his most offensive ability. You even get to see him do it to a parademon, where he literally just pushes a parademon into the next room at like Mach 2.
Yeah, he does not know how to fight, and he probably does not know how to properly run. Although I know you like it because it looks like he's swimming.
Yes, that's the whole thing.
In fact, one of our buddies that watched it with us said, I would much rather watch him run than watch the Flash from the TV show run, because it gets boring after a while.
Well, because
generic looking.
The problem is that typical Flash running has been it doesn't have a sense of like feeling. It doesn't have weight to it. It doesn't feel like he's actually moving as much as it's like you took an image of Usain Bolt running and then put it on ×5 speed and then played that in a scene.
Right.
It feels artificial.
In front of a green screen.
Right. But when you're looking at Ezra Miller's Flash run in the Snyder Cut, he is pulling himself forward with his arms, and it looks like he's like swimming up through water when he runs. Right. He has very wide and long motions, which would look strange if someone was running like that in real time. But because of the way you have to do how Flash interacts, it's the same thing with Quicksilver, for instance. Yep. It's not that he's running really fast from the way that we're viewing it. It's like we're viewing everything in slow motion.
Right.
And so that type of motion syncs better with that filming style, as opposed to the rapidly moving your arms up and down. What
you're used to seeing for Flash.
Right, Usain Bolt style, where his legs and arms are just a blur. That pulling motion as he's running forward feels much more natural.
Well, Snyder wanted to make sure there was a distinction between what we typically saw from Flash and what we got.
Right.
There was a definite distinction between the two.
And I think that is a sign of not just the small details coming together, but defining itself. Now, for instance, Flash is unique in the Snyderverse.
It did not feel, okay, I will say when I watched the Whedon version, I did not like that Flash. And I know that there shouldn't be that much difference between the two, but the subtle changes, the stuff that we didn't get out of his movie compared to Snyder's, made that difference for me, in my opinion.
Right, his character development is much more well-rounded. Cyborg's is leagues.
Yeah, I can understand why his actor was so pissed off.
Yes, he is not even a fully formed character in the Joss Whedon version.
Shafted.
Hard.
Obviously Jeff Johns did not like him. There was a lot of issues with that, and he was getting a hard time from Jeff Johns, John Berg, and some others.
But regardless, it's not even if you hate the actor or not, because some actors are hard to work with. We understand that.
Right.
You can't do the character like that. He's literally the character holding the ensemble together.
I don't think they hated the actor. I think that they hated what Snyder had come up with for the character. And so they were just trying to get rid of him as much as they could.
I don't know. I don't care. It was a travesty to have it done, and it is now fixed, and that's the important part.
Now, don't get me wrong. There's still parts of his character that I was not crazy about, but I'm not the biggest Cyborg fan anyways, except for
the Teen Titans.
I'm that typical, I love Teen Titans, but I understand there are different versions of Cyborg.
So I'm my biggest fan of the 80s run New Teen Titans.
This is pretty cool too.
Right. And now that Vic Stone is a completely different character with a completely different personality, but this Snyder character is the best iteration of the new Cyborg, the Cyborg that is mixed with Mother Box technology. And it does show, especially that was lacking in the first version of the Justice League, the humanity still left within Cyborg.
Right.
Because Cyborg
really focused on that.
Yeah, Cyborg does lose a lot of what it means to be a human being just from what has happened to him. He is mostly cyborg organic. He is having this immense and incredible power that he doesn't start the movie with, which is really important.
Right.
That he has to learn how strong and how powerful of an entity he is. His father does a perfect example of leaving him this impression of it that gets overlaid with this virtual reality world that he kind of can construct in his mind, where he could literally fire every nuke on Earth at once if he wants, and there is nothing on Earth that can stop him from doing so. And it's that scale, that immensity of knowledge and connection that starts sapping away at his humanity in a very Watchmen-like Dr. Manhattan style. And to see that get amplified and yet retain the most valuable parts of Cyborg, which is his humanity, his connection with his mother, his relationship with his father, his feelings of grief, his feelings of change and loss and not understanding his place in the world. To give that character that depth completely just revolutionizes him in comparison to the first movie. And so that alone elevated the movie to a whole new level to me.
I mean, there was so much difference between the fate of characters involved with him.
Like his father.
Like his father actually seeing his mother. I don't remember seeing his mother in the first movie.
Not to my recollection.
I mean, if it was like
a very short scene.
Super speed. And it made, I mean, the guy who plays his dad's already, I've always liked him in any role that he's been in. He usually doesn't play like a lead role or anything, but he's usually a good side character. He's a good actor. He was perfect for the role. I loved the connection between the two, seeing that love and care without saying words kind of acting, you know?
Yep.
And you didn't see that in the first one at all. The mom was clearly, you learned the mom was the more vocal one for her son, where the dad, as usual, you know, being Silas, isn't the type that usually is best with words. We've seen that with the Doom Patrol.
Yes.
One as well.
And of the two, actually, I think they're at this point very comparable. And Cyborg and Doom Patrol has gotten 2 seasons worth of development. Right. This Cyborg has only gotten a 4-hour film, and they did
the Doom Patrol one's
work.
a little bit goofier, so
Yeah, but because it's comedic.
Right.
But regardless, even in that universe, I feel like they match as far as character development goes, which says a lot, because Doom Patrol Cyborg has gotten a depth to run with.
Right. And then as far as Aquaman, they did a lot of good stuff with him as well. So they did with the first one. I love Aquaman. Jason Momoa is probably the perfect fit. Whoever said, let's hire Jason Momoa for this role, awesome idea. I don't know who you are, but kudos. He is perfect for that role.
Right.
But they try to keep making him a comedy bit in that Justice League version. I mean, I get it. People love making Aquaman the butt of jokes. They didn't make him a butt of a joke in the Justice League one, but they liked putting him in comedic situations, and it doesn't fit his version of Aquaman. And you got to see him be more of a badass in this one. And it was really cool getting to see him talk to William Dafoe and seeing how he got his armor and his mother's trident. You didn't get that explanation in the Justice League. Why wouldn't Joss Whedon want to use William Dafoe in his movie?
Yes.
Like who cuts that out?
Yeah, William Dafoe is serving the part of the Atlantean monarchy's advisor / like seer or prophet is the best way you would think of him.
Yeah, and he's like a mentor.
Yeah, he's a
Aquaman.
Spiritual advisor. He covers a lot of different.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of different.
Yeah, but why would you cut him out? Like, I can understand.
But his scene also has a lot of emotional strength too.
Yeah.
Because he's coming from the perspective of someone who knew and highly valued his mother.
Yes.
While Aquaman's character is so far removed from his mother that every time he, meets with somebody who had this, higher than or larger than life perspective on his mother as a person, it would always clash with the idea to him that his mother just abandoned him. And every character kind of plays into developing his mother off screen, where they show that she made that decision to save her son's life and that she regretted having done it. Because not only does William Dafoe's character play into and give information relevant to that, but Mira does as well.
We got to see a lot more, of course, about that relationship between Aquaman and him because of the Aquaman movie at this point. So we understand the importance of his character. But it would have been nice to have introduced that in the first place before the Aquaman movie had came out.
Right.
But this is what we got. I know one of the unfortunate things was with Superman, he got about the same amount of screen time. It's pretty close. And my brother got to watch it with us. And that was one of the first comments he made. He said to him, it felt like he had less screen time. But it was only because it was a 4-hour movie. I said he started right around the same time that he started in the Justice League, timeline-wise.
Yeah. And while he did have stronger parts to play, I'm going to say stronger in value, not stronger in time, or just like what portion he takes. Like, for instance, the last fight versus Steppenwolf is only Superman who can take him. In this version, Steppenwolf fights all 3 of them.
It's so much. That is so
right.
So much better fight.
So while most people would think that that's a detraction from Superman, it's not. And also, they removed like the cringiest parts of Superman's original home.
CGI.
Well, yeah. So the opening with
mustache.
Superman, which is where he has to talk to the kids, and where he was in Mission Impossible with the mustache.
Yes.
So they have to CGI it out. People made jokes for a long time about that. That's gone. When Superman comes back, thank God he does not say to Batman, "Do you bleed?" That I don't know if you guys remember that line, but that's the first words he has for Batman.
That was Joss Whedon making fun of Snyder right there.
Right. Returning that, titular line.
Or the yes, ma'am.
But yeah,
it was what, like, that was okay. So that whole scene where he's at the farm, the parts that Joss Whedon filmed were completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, they was basic. Most of the stuff, except for the yes ma'am part, was word for word.
And not only that, but when you go back to when Lois Lane finally, gets, flown off in the sky by Superman and whatever else, there's a really weird scene where she hugs him and she's like, "You smell good," or she tells him that he smells good. And I'm like, yeah, that was unnecessary and a little bit creepy because your boyfriend just rose from the dead.
Yeah.
And
well, Whedon's a little creepy, so you know,
a little creepy.
Yeah, that's not really surprising.
And she asked him like, how does it feel to be resurrected? And he's like, itchy. And I'm like, no.
Why is that? What?
None of this is hitting. I'm sorry.
I forgot about that, but that was a terrible line.
Yeah, it was. There's plenty of it. Like, and those things weakened Superman's performance across the entirety of the movie. With those detracted from him, even though he doesn't have more time in the movie, his time is more valuable.
One of our friends did miss one scene with Superman, which was the end credit scene with him and Flash. Now, let me say, everybody loves to see Flash and Superman race against each other.
The great race.
Great race. But the lines that he gave him were just as cringy too. I don't remember exactly what it said, but like, I guess it was like his mission to give Superman as many cringy lines as possible.
Right. Well, he once again just
he did not know how to write for these characters.
He continuously just detracts from them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Even if the moment is serious, think about it, man. Yeah. Superman came back from the dead. That is a somber thing. That's not like,
Yeah, now, why wouldn't he have his black and white suit? You know what I mean?
Right. But it's also just Snyder took it in the opposite direction a little bit too far in the beginning with how Messiah figure Superman was.
He toned it down in this one.
Right. But Joss Whedon completely made it into a joke, and that's unacceptable. The death of Superman and the revival of Superman are important. Also, another credit to the Snyder Cut is that the death of Superman is the thing that triggers the mother boxes. Superman's dying scream is a sonic shout so strong that it activates a mother box and triggers the actual Justice League plot.
And we did not get that really weird Batman at the rooftop scenes where he's trying to grab the thug and then a parademon pops up out of nowhere.
Yeah, also there's the subplot where people think that the parademons are Batman, which is actually a really interesting conundrum. It doesn't really cause any issues for them throughout the movie, but it is just something that's recurrent. When people describe the parademons, the thing they describe sounds like Batman. It flies down from the sky. It's caped, because they have the parademon armor.
Yep. And so they're just like, well, Superman's dead, so
it has to be Batman.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's the parademons. And it actually serves a purpose because even though it doesn't directly influence the plot, the reason why humanity's response to the parademon invasion is so slow is because they're hunting for a box that's in Gotham. And the things that are hunting are parademons. No matter who reports it, it just sounds like they're reporting Batman.
Right. So, and the way they snuck around, you got to see a little bit more of that. The way they snuck around Gotham, it made sense why a lot of people didn't know what the heck they were.
Right. It gives a reason for humanity's delayed response.
Right. I still don't think most of humanity knew what was going on.
Right.
There was one thing that people were kind of annoyed about. There was one scene that was in Snyder's that wasn't in Whedon's, which was, and I liked it, but there's people that didn't. It was the sacrifice that Silas Stone gave. They felt like it was pointless because they're like, the world's greatest detective couldn't figure out where this massive energy circle was in the world.
I'm not exactly sure because the thing about the boxes themselves is that as long as they're dormant, they're not emitting that energy. They have to be activated. Now the activation. So
they would have been late technically if they didn't know about.
Right. The unity is when they start to release energy. Beforehand, every time they took a box, it was immediately placed into that circular stone at in the center of the nuclear silo. Right. It doesn't activate.
But I saw some other YouTubers thinking that what he did was pointless. But it wasn't pointless, because if he didn't do that, it would have been too late for Batman to try to research and figure out where this location was. Yeah, sure, he's the world's greatest detective, and they could have easily wrote that into the line, into the plot.
Well, I mean, it would have maybe have been confronted as a plot hole. Is a thing that's kind of important there, because you got to think about it like this. We know that the parademons are tracking it through an almost supernatural mean.
Right.
Whatever, there's a signal or a scent
there's
that
some
the
sort
boxes
of
give
connection
off.
between them. Yeah.
That the parademons can hunt. And so we know for a fact that even Steppenwolf can't find it by himself. And Steppenwolf knows what he's looking for. If Batman to have Batman find it without something helping him would be a plot hole in IMO, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So Silas Stone's sacrifice, I find to be perfectly apt. The idea was correct. They already laid it down, because the Atom, who is...
he was not in the Justice League, is in this one.
So Ryan Choi is a part of the Star Labs team working with Silas Stone. He is the Atom, if you are unfamiliar with that. He's the
second Atom.
Yeah, the second Atom, not Ray Palmer.
Yeah.
And so he's working with miniaturization technology, so it's a full-on, like, once again, soft backstory, kind of closer to Martian Manhunters for the character of the Atom.
Snyder was building up, people in that universe, and he tried to do it in a more organic way.
Right. But they go over the fact that he cannot destroy the mother boxes. Rather, they absorb and can contain heat even higher than the sun. Mm-hmm. So even throwing it into space does nothing.
Right.
So I think that Silas's plan was both accurate, because he hit it with a super laser.
Yep.
Basically an atomic laser that would melt down almost anything else. But because of how the mother box works, it contains all that energy and it holds it. So imagine something hotter than the sun. You just put on thermal imaging for a satellite and it glows up. That's the reason why they were able to get there so quickly. Along with Cyborg helping to make the Justice League carrier. I don't know what you want to call that thing.
It would look like a whale.
Yeah, the flying carrier.
The whaler.
Actually work.
The whaler.
Right, because we got the Nightcrawler for the spider tank. We got the Batmobile, even though the Batmobile is more like a buggy.
And then we got the Audi commercials.
Right. But regardless, I don't know what you call the flying thing, but Cyborg helped get it flying.
Yeah.
And it was really durable, because it crashed and it flies in the end of the movie as well.
Yeah, I did not expect that to fly again.
Yeah, that thing was a tank.
So focus. I think we pointed out a lot of things. I think the M part stuff that a lot of people didn't see, the big stuff that a lot of people didn't see in Justice League, which of course, again, Steppenwolf had betrayed Darkseid, and he's been spending hundreds, thousands of years killing thousands of planets trying to make up for what he did, and he finds the planet that he lost to. I don't know why Darkseid doesn't remember what planet it is. I'm sure there's some sort of reason.
Well, it's been thousands of years, and any way that he could have immediately have tracked it back was removed.
Oh yeah,
the mother boxes were separated.
That's true. They were
sealed.
Silent. That's right. Okay.
Right.
Dumb blonde moment. But anyways, so Steppenwolf finds out that the anti-life equation
is on Earth,
which is a big thing in the DC universe. Darkseid has been pretty much, there's been like 3 event comics involving him with the anti-life equation.
Yes. Because not only does it just allow him to delete people from existence, making him more than powerful enough to beat anyone in a fight, but it also allows him to remove people's free will, and that's the important part.
Yeah, and that is the perfect embodiment for Zack Snyder's universe, because a lot of the stuff at the beginning was very nihilistic, and that is the embodiment of nihilism. The anti-life equation is exactly that, and it's like the one thing that he did that was more symbolic than most of the other stuff he did in Justice League.
Yep.
And you can see how that's building up towards that, where we saw that Darkseid is going to come the old-fashioned way, as he said, to come to Earth. The Justice League needs to prepare for that. We get to meet, which was really cool. We got to meet Martian Manhunter. It's awesome.
Yes.
I can't wait. Hopefully we get to see him in Justice League too, when that happens. And then we got to go to the Nightmare verse. We got to go flash forward. We got to kind of piece the puzzles of what we expect will happen in this next set of movies.
Right. Because if they do occur, we know for a fact that the plot lines that are quintessential for establishing how to arrive at the Nightmareverse have been set up in the Snyder Cut. They are Barry appearing using his time travel ability, established here, because he used time travel to save the world. He uses a time distortion to run back in time during the movie to allow them the chance to complete the removal of the mother box and stop Darkseid from boom tubing in and the Unity from being achieved. But that ability will allow Barry to go back to a previous point where he finds and talks to Batman and says, save Lois.
Yeah.
We know that it is the death of Lois that allows Darkseid with the anti-life equation to control Superman. And we know that it's Superman that leads to the Nightmare universe.
Yes.
Because Superman kills Aquaman.
No, that's actually, so I read the storyboards of what's supposed to happen in 2 or 3. Obviously, there's going to be some stuff that's going to change. But in Justice League 2, what's supposed to happen is that Lex, as you saw him, he got free. He's going to form the Injustice League. And he finds out about the anti-life equation. And he's forming that group, and there's going to be Black Manta is going to be the cause of Aquaman's death. And do you remember the villain from Wonder Woman, Dr. Maru, or however you say her name? Yeah. She's going to kill her.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
They can change things.
Well, the whole point about that is that the reason why Mara wants to kill Superman is because she says Superman killed Aquaman.
Yeah, so obviously there were some changes. There were some changes to that clearly because in the original storyboard they were going to have Deadshot instead of Slade, Deathstroke. So there has been a lot of changes. And then one of the coolest changes
is Leto's Joker.
That was an awesome Joker. And to me, was a step above what he did in Suicide Squad. In fact, excuse me, he himself said that he was very proud of himself with that one. He felt a lot better about that than what he did in Suicide Squad.
Right. Now, Suicide Squad's Joker is... See, I never had a large issue with it because I always saw, of course, any Joker fan knows their Joker changes his theme as just even in one comic run, he can change his theme. So the Crown Prince of Crime has always been that gangster Joker.
Yep.
And so it fits with the times. The original gangster Joker, of course, we see is when the mob was the thing. And so it was Jack Nicholson's mobster Joker. Later on, we have gang violence as kind of the major crime scene for Gotham at that time, and so we have like MS-13 looking,
which I didn't like.
Joker.
I mean, Dane Novelle went over it quite a few times of why it.
He looks that way and acts that way.
I told him I just don't like that aesthetic. I understand why he is, but I just don't like it. I don't care why.
And Suicide Squad
bothers me too much.
Suicide Squad is a different production. Yes. Suicide Squad is just a wholly different thing. It's not going to be in the Snyder universe. I don't think the Suicide Squad sinks at this point, which is fine because now we get a new Joker. And this Joker is closer to the classic criminally insane Joker. He has the bleached, almost white face paint.
Yeah. He's got the tattoos gone.
Tattoos are removed. And once again, like I said, I don't think this is that Joker. Yeah. He has the not red. It looks like red lipstick, but it's very uneven, so it kind of looks like blood, like he's been eating a person's leg or something, and that's the stain after he finishes eating. His hair is that sickly green again. And the interesting thing about him is that he's found a bulletproof vest somewhere. And on the bulletproof vest is several different variations of sheriff's badges. Yep. And I don't know if it's just because those were the police and law officers they were fighting with against the Darkseid's invasion. He's just picked them up from everyone who's died, or he's gone around killing every cop that he can find. I would assume he's
just been killing the cops. That would be my assumption because he's Joker. But I really loved the change in his mannerisms and his voice and everything. He immediately reminded me of Jim Carrey, honestly. If Jim Carrey was to play the Joker.
He does feel like Jim Carrey.
Which is not a diss. That's a good thing, in my opinion.
Well, that leans towards a comedic persona.
Right.
Like, if you want to name a comedian, right, acting like Jim Carrey is a form of, like, comedic presence. That's not a thing that's bad.
Because he's a chaotic type of comedic actor, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, I mean, just look at his Riddler. If you want to look at another thing from Batman, it's very, while it might seem comical looking at it now, his like ability to swap from here's this riddle, play this game, to a complete lunatic who's going to kill you with a question-shaped staff in that like split second is the thing that makes the Joker scary.
Yeah, in that movie, even though it's very camp.
Right. And while there is this kind of like subtle, softer dialogue between Joker and Batman as they confront the consequences of their previous actions.
Oh man,
Joker killing Robin. And
he's Batman snapped for a second there.
Yeah, they're like, when this is all over, I'm going to fucking kill you.
I was like, what? I was like, yep. I can see that with this Batman.
Right. Well, obviously, yes. Since Batman has no issue with that conundrum.
So, by the way, apparently, Snyder actually said in an interview why they needed Joker. He has one of the mother boxes. He put it away somewhere, and so they need him to help with powering the device that Barry's going to use to travel back in time.
Right, because once again, they cover two things about what the mother boxes does. The mother box has the ability to rewrite matter, and they're pre-programmed to turn any world into a simile of Apocalypse. You know, basically soft clones of Darkseid's home world. But they can also reverse that transformation. And if you've seen the Nightmare world, it needs that reversal.
Yes, without a doubt.
And that reversal is also related to the fact that they store and contain immeasurable amounts of thermal energy. If you were to release all of that from each box, it could power anything, including a time machine. So either way it goes, the boxes are useful to either fix the world in that time zone or in that timeline in the Avengers method, or to hard time travel back and fix things, which is what probably is going to happen because obviously Barry hard time travels.
Right. So from what we saw, clearly they're going to go with a inspired Rock of Age storyline, Mad Max, and then make Superman like kind of, you know, inspired from the Injustice video games where he's evil and stuff like that. It's a little different, but it's obviously inspired from that.
Well, or it could be very similar to like Joker-fied Superman,
right,
and or Poison Ivy when she controls Superman,
right,
where Superman might be not just serving Darkseid of his own violation, but is being controlled by the anti-life equation.
Yeah, he seems to be controlled, and from what the vibes we were getting from the end of the movie. Of course, it was really fast, you know, there wasn't much time left with the movie, but from what we saw of him, that would be our best guess.
Right. And the most important things about that is that mind controlling Superman makes him less competent.
Right.
And that can actually save your life when having to deal with him.
Right.
Yeah, so it's really important to kind of get that emphasis that if he is not thinking of his own violation, he's just a robot. He's a very powerful weapon, but he's not particularly competent.
Well, it's not like not Henry, but Superman's the most intelligent hero most of the time anyways.
Oh, no, Superman.
I mean, it depends. There's some versions that a more seasoned Superman is usually more intelligent, but this isn't exactly the more seasoned Superman.
If you want to go by the comic book continuity, Superman is more intelligent than Batman. He's like the 5th smartest person on Earth. Mr. Terrific is 3rd.
Yeah, they do make him a lot more intelligent than that, but a lot of times in the non-comic book canon stuff, they don't make him the brightest crayon in the box.
Well, yeah, because if you stay true to his comic book self, he's once again nigh invincible in every aspect. like they're like Superman's weakness is magic.
He needs a little bit of, you know, flaws, you know.
Right. They're like Superman's weakness is magic, except Superman can just learn magic. No one ever said that Kryptonians can't learn magic. Superman doesn't actually have that weakness. It's just something that's there so that there is a thing to target him from.
Right. And it makes Billy Bats and Shazam, you know,
the rival counter. That's why you get things like Kingdom Come, where they sick Shazam on Superman.
Yeah.
But the same thing occurs there. While they're normally about even, because Lex Luthor was controlling Shazam in a similar way that we might see Darkseid controlling Superman, there's a chance. You know what I'm saying? There's an obvious weakness to having somebody that powerful as a mind control
and you have
weapon.
someone like Batman who's still alive and he's been preparing, obviously.
Right. And so
you don't give Batman time to prepare.
The future's not hopeless is basically the whole point.
Yeah, if Batman's around, there's hope. Because he's basically, for them, I mean, I know there's obvious similarities always with Batman and Iron Man, but he is literally turned into, as long as they keep this version of this universe, that Batman is pretty much the Tony Stark of that world, and more so that he is the hero. that everybody counts on.
Right. As opposed to his normal...
The beacon of hope.
His normal persona and position is more of a coordinator.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He's the great planner in the back. Superman tends to be the beacon of hope in other sources.
You gave him a title. They basically made him... What'd you say he
the
was?
Unifier.
Yeah,
the great unifier.
There was another one. What was the other title that you gave him? He was the... I can't remember. It was a cool title, but it worked for this Batman. Basically, he's the signifier of hope. Basically.
Yeah. Oh, dang it! Now I'm
you know what I'm thinking?
Yeah, right. Because it was in the middle of the movie when I came up with it, just because of how they were framing Batman. Everyone, literally, even Martian Manhunter at the very end, comes to him and is like, "We need you,
right?"
Batman.
They're not worried about Superman. You know what I mean?
Right.
They all come to Batman, which is very different from what you usually do. Batman is very standoffish. He basically tells you to get the F away. Usually.
Also, people just think that Batman can't be trusted or is unreliable.
Right.
That's just a universal, the only person that actually genuinely is willing to blanketly trust Batman is Superman. Even the Flash sometimes.
That's the funny thing, because in this world, he's much more hesitant of Batman than the rest of them are.
Right.
Which is hilarious. Is there any other points that you have thought of?
Two things that are very important.
Yeah.
One, they fix the issue of Batman's incompetence.
Yes.
From these two movies. Batman originally is useless. I mean, 100%. If you go back and you watch the original Justice League, Batman is ill-suited to fight parademons.
Mm-hmm.
He is also ill-suited to deal with Steppenwolf, and is ill-suited to deal with Superman when Superman's coming back. He
barely killed anyone in the first one.
Right. No, he does have a great combat potential, but here they gave him three serious advantages. One, they had Alfred and him work together to introduce or to engineer.
Someone was complaining because it got its own arc.
Yeah. But regardless, it was actually really important that he gets thermally conductive bracers based off of the design of the thermal conductivity of the mother box.
Yep.
So this allows him not only to absorb parademon weaponry. So if a parademon tries to shoot him, he can block with the gauntlet like Wonder Woman and can deflect and absorb the energy from the blast and protect himself, which is something he didn't have in the original movie, which means if Batman ever got shot, he would just die.
Well, and that was perfectly shown when Superman didn't know who he was for a second there, and he had to block both of the heat vision blasts.
Yeah, and it's there because that's something that could be done. If Superman heat visioned up from the very beginning in the original movie, Batman just dies. He doesn't have anything that saves him in that situation, but he loses both of the gauntlets doing so. We know that Batman picks up a gun and uses it in the original movie, but now there's a better explanation for both how he does so and why he does so in the Snyder cut.
Yep.
So it fixes the major incompetence of Batman as a combatant in the original movie. That right there is a keynote because Batman was literally useless.
He was useless and he had terrible dad jokes.
Yes.
Batman does not do dad jokes.
The most important thing I find, though, honestly, is that they took time out, even though it's a bit bizarre on the second one, to give a heartfelt nod to Snyder. When Barry and Batman are leaving Barry's Flash Cave, whatever you want to call it, there's an the American Suicide Foundation billboard as they're driving away, which is a nod to Snyder's situation and is a respectful way of, just plugging that in the film to highlight that important social need, especially in these times where people are more at risk due to the isolation and the struggles that have been the last year plus, you know? So I very much appreciated seeing that billboard as they drove away. The second one's a little bit weirder because it screws with the continuity.
Yep.
But it's when they go to Arkham Asylum, it's not Arkham Asylum for the criminally insane, which is the comic book title for the Arkham prison. It's Arkham Home for the emotionally damaged, which is a nod to the reframing and the social normalization of concern and just politeness in regards to mental health.
I can live with that.
Right. And it's weird because it literally
it's not what we're used to.
It is an asylum for the criminally insane. The Joker belongs there. But I do see the nod. I respect the nod, no matter how odd it is. And of those two things, I prefer the billboard a lot more.
Right.
But regardless, I do like the fact that twice they touched on something that was so important to the director, to Snyder.
Right.
And that is a humanizing thing. And I did see that. And so I just want to make sure that if you guys didn't, you notice that nod was there. It's not related to the things that we love. It's not Geek Branch related. It's not about the comics or the thing, but it's a real life touch.
It's an important thing in life right now, and it makes a good emotional imprint of the director, because obviously
Snyder can chafe.
Right.
That is true.
Yeah.
But we can all show sympathy for his situation and how we got to what was the original Justice League movie.
Yes. So I could go on about this all day. We will not be making a 4-hour episode about all things Justice League. I don't think you would want to watch 4 hours of that. I think you would rather watch 4 hours of Justice League. I think that says how great that movie is. I want Warner Brothers to understand that we need more of Snyder. We did not appreciate some of the stuff he did at the beginning, but he went back on the right course. He is a DC fan like the rest of us. He loves the source material. He has some great ideas, and I want to see it finished through. Thank you guys, as I always say, for letting me and Novelle get to the root of our geek culture with you.